These are some playoff disappointments, and we gotta start with the poster boy, James Harden. James Harden is the bearded enigma, the step-back spammer, the man who made 30-point triple-doubles look like casual strolls in the park, during the regular season, at least. There's no denying Harden's greatness when the calendar reads October through April. The man won an MVP, led the league in scoring 3 times, and transformed isolation basketball into an art form during his peak with the Houston Rockets. He turned the Toyota Center into his personal theater, torching defenders with crossover-heavy wizardry and drawing fouls with a mastery or manipulation that had rulebooks rewritten. But for all his regular season heroics, the playoffs have consistently told a different, far more frustrating story. One of missed shots, disappearing acts, and defensive collapses that have left fans and analysts scratching their heads year after year after year. Let's start with the good. Yes, there was a high point. In the 2017-2018 season, Harden had the Rockets sitting atop of the Western Conference as the #1 seed with the league best 65-17 record. That year, he led the Rockets all the way to the Western Conference Finals and pushed the Dynasty-era Golden State Warriors to 7 grueling games against what was the best team of all time. But even in that golden moment, the cracks were showing. In Game 6 of that series, with the Rockets up 3-2 and a chance to eliminate the Warriors at home, albeit without Chris Paul due to injury, Harden shot 6 of 15 from the field, including a frosty 3 for 11 from three-point range. Then came Game 7, the infamous 27 straight missed threes, where Harden went 12 for 29 from the field and 2 of 13 from behind the arc, and committed 5 turnovers in the process. Houston blew a 15-point lead and lost at home. Just like that, their best shot at a title, and Harden's best postseason performance crumbled under the weight of cold shooting and questionable decisions. But that was the peak. The rest of Harden's playoff resume reads more like a cautionary tale for regular season players not exactly translating into postseason success as a different brand of basketball is played. In 2015, the Rockets were again Western Conference finalists, but Harden's Game 5 performance against the Warriors was a disaster. He shot 2 of 11 from the field and committed a playoff record 13 turnovers in a 104-90 elimination loss. In 2017, as the #3 seed, the Rockets faced a Spurs team without Kawhi Leonard and Tony Parker in Game 6 of the Western Conference semis. Harden, inexplicably passive, shot just 2 of 11, finished with 6 turnovers, and fouled out in 36 minutes as the Rockets lost by 39 points at home. The body language is off, the aggression was not there, and the game looked like it swallowed him whole. Overall, Harden has averaged pretty solid postseason numbers: 22.7 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, and 6.2 assists across his playoff career, but the efficiency craters when compared to his regular season production. As of 2025, he's shooting a lackluster 42% from the field and just 33% from 3 in the playoffs. When defenses tighten and the whistle gets less friendly, Harden's foul hunting tactics lose effectiveness. Instead of getting easy trips to the lines, he averaged nearly 11 free throws per game in peak regular seasons. That number tends to dip in the postseason as the refs swallow their whistle. Forced to earn it with consistent jumpers and tough finishes, his field goal percentage often tells the tale. In the regular season, James Harden in his prime demanded as much attention as anybody. In the D'Antoni offense, with all the spacing in the world, Harden can generate assloads of points easily. If you play him up, he'll blow by you. If you sag, he'll step back and shoot. If you bring help, he'll find his shooters. And you give him an ounce of physicality, he'll wrap his arms around you and flail like a flounder. It's insanely effective in the regular season, and really, if it was that easy, more people would do it. But come playoff time, when he can consistently expect the best perimeter defenders in the league with just a tad bit more physicality allowed, you can expect a consistent reduction in his outputs with a few too many major stinker performances in big-time games to overlook. And then there's the defense, or in Harden's case, the lack thereof. His defensive shortcomings have long been haunting him throughout his career, even causing him to get a few appearances on Shaq and a Fool. Low effort closeouts, ball watching on rotations, getting blown by in the perimeter, in high-stakes playoff games, these issues become magnified. Guards like Steph and Clay reportedly targeted Harden in pick-and-roll situations, knowing he either wouldn't fight over screens or would be late with help. In that brutal 2019 Western semifinals loss to the Warriors again, Harden's lack of defensive engagement helped Golden State get critical buckets in the clutch. His constant laziness on defense throughout his various playoff matchups were causing even the 7th and 8th man on the bench to have stellar nights offensively. I mean, role players like Wesley Matthews and Lou Dort, yes, Lou Dort, have had career nights against Harden in the postseason as coaches constantly hunted him in switches and pick and rolls. It's not that Harden doesn't ever try. He's had stretches of solid defensive effort in the post, post. He's a strong post defender and has pretty good hands, averaging over 1.5 steals in many playoff runs, but his off-ball awareness and stamina on defense have routinely come into question, especially when he's tasked with carrying the offensive load. Over time, as his teams flamed out earlier and earlier, particularly with the Brooklyn Nets and Philadelphia 76ers, the perception hardened. James Harden is a regular season savant, but a playoff liability. Whether it was his vanishing act in elimination games, his baffling passivity and when aggression was needed, or his poor shot selection in crunch time, Harden's playoff legacy is haunted by the question marks he's never erased. His teams have been bounced in the second round or earlier in 9 of his 13 postseason appearances. He's had games where he shot under 25%, games where he turned the ball over double-digit times, and far too many moments where he simply looked overwhelmed. Even after joining teams with MVP-caliber co-stars like Kevin Durant and Kyrie in Brooklyn, Joel Embiid in Philly, or Kawhi in LA, the pattern repeated. Big expectations, early exits, and Harden walking off the court with a stat line that didn't justify the hype. And so, the narrative persists. For all his dazzling talent, James Harden's playoff story is less about what he's done and more about what he hasn't. Elevate, adapt, deliver. His regular season brilliance made him a superstar. His postseason woes kept him from becoming an NBA legend. But if you thought Harden's playoff resume was frustrating, just wait until we talk about Jalen Green, because that man's performance in this year's playoffs wasn't just bad, it was absolutely fucking disgusting. Bad enough to get him shipped not even a couple months after. When the Houston Rockets selected Jalen Green with the second overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft, it wasn't just about potential, it was about a new identity. Coming off the departure of James Harden and the crumbling of the micro-ball era, the franchise was desperate for a new face of the future, a player that could carry them out of the league's basement and into a new chapter. Green, a 6'5" electric guard straight out of the G League Ignite program, seemed built for that role. The athleticism was freakish, the swagger was contagious, and the highlights, instant viral content. Whether it's soaring dunks in traffic, step-back threes from the parking lot, or that signature smooth crossover into a no-look dish, Green made you believe that you were watching the next great NBA scorer in the making, dating back to his high school days. His rookie year was rocky at times, but there were flashes of a star in the making. He dropped 30+ 6 times in his final 10 games of the 22 season, showing off a scoring bag that even veterans had to respect. The Rockets were awful, dead last in the West, but Green gave them hope. He wasn't just a player, he was a spectacle, a walking SportsCenter top 10. As the seasons progressed, Jalen's game really didn't. By year 3 under new head coach Ime Udoka in the 2025 season, Green was still the same damn player we saw in his rookie year. He still had tunnel vision, and his decision-making could be suspect. In the regular season, Green averaged 21 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 3.7 assists, while shooting 42% from the field and 35% from deep. Not necessarily bad production, but a bit alarming for a number of reasons. For one, the Rockets were looking desperately for a scoring punch on the perimeter, and they need it now. It's not necessarily Green's fault that the Rockets' timetable got shortened fast, but with a team that needs exactly what he's supposed to offer, it is his fault that he hasn't increased his scoring efficiency in the slightest bit. The Rockets had built a strong young core around him: Şengün, Jabari Smith Jr., and Damon Thompson, plus added veterans like Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks to steady the ship. For the first time in years, Houston finished with a 51-31 record, securing the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. The team put together a huge turnaround this season, and when Jalen Green was on, he was a big part of it. Green had just torched the Lakers for 42 points in a late March game, including 7 of 11 from deep and multiple fourth-quarter daggers. Although we are and are still waiting for that consistency, when this much talent shows up in glimpses, it was hard to not fully lose hope, especially going into a playoff series as a 2 seed. The Rockets were matched up with the veteran-led Golden State Warriors in the first round, a battle of youth versus experience. And after Green dropped 38 points and hit 8 threes in Game 2, it looked like Houston might be ready for the moment. Unfortunately, that was the only moment. What followed was one of the most dramatic collapses by a rising star in recent playoff history. In games 3 through 7, Green averaged just 13.3 points per game. His shooting splits plummeted to 37% from the field and 29% from 3. In 2 of those games, he shot under 30%. In Game 7, with the season on the line at home, Green went 3 for 14, scored just 8 points, and looked completely overwhelmed. No aggression, no lift, no rhythm. On multiple possessions, he passed up on various open looks. He turned the ball over trying to force contested stepbacks, even break 2 crucial free throws in the third quarter, as the Rockets tried to claw back from a 12-point deficit. For a player who at times looked like he has ice in his veins when it comes to being a go-to scorer, Green melted under pressure. And the defensive end, that was arguably worse. Warriors coach Steve Kerr targeted Green relentlessly. Every time Green was on the floor, Golden State hunted him in pick and rolls, Steph Curry danced past him, even Jonathan Kuminga, his fellow 2021 draftee, took him off the dribble a couple times, and this dude was barely playing. According to advanced tracking stats, the Rockets' defensive rating was 11.4 points worse per 100 possessions when Green was on the floor during this series. He was quite literally the definition of a defensive liability while building houses on offense and not swinging the rock. What the fuck, Jalen Green? A brutal stat emerged after the series. In the 4 final games, Green was a whopping minus 57 in plus-minus. I mean, like, throw me out there for fuck's sake. For millions of dollars, I mean, I know I'd probably get cooked too, but at least I'd show some heart and soul out there on defense. There's guys that see shots fall and choose to lock in defensively, crash the glass, just doing something other than just doing cardio. Jalen Green just shit his pants. When asked about the struggles post-game 7, Green didn't hide. He said, "I just didn't deliver. It's on me." Admirable, sure, but the damage was already done. Fans were livid, analysts tore him apart. That was his moments, and he blew it, said Kendrick Perkins. Even Stephen A. Smith couldn't resist, saying, "I saw nothing, not a damn thing from Jalen Green when it mattered most." I mean, these guys are idiots, yes, but what did we see from Jalen Green that reassured anyone that Jalen Green is the man for the future? Perhaps worst of all, Green's confidence seemed shattered. By games 6 and 7, the body language was hard to miss. Slouched shoulders, passive cuts, sloppy closeouts. The moment got too big. Behind the scenes, rumors swirled that Rockets executives were beginning to doubt if Green could ever truly lead a championship contender. "We love Jalen's talent," one anonymous team source said, "but we needed someone who doesn't just light up the scoreboard in March. We need someone who shows up in May." It didn't take long for the whispers to become roars. Within weeks of the playoff collapse, Jalen Green's name was being floated in trade rumors. And when Kevin Durant's relationship with the Phoenix Suns fractured following their season disaster, Houston saw an opportunity. The blockbuster deal hit headlines like a thunderclap. Houston Rockets acquired Kevin Durant. Phoenix Suns received Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, 2025 first-round pick, and a 2026 pick swap. Just like that, the Jalen Green era in Houston is over. The reactions were a little mixed. Some fans mourned the loss of a homegrown star. Others, or probably most, were pretty relieved. You don't pass on KD for a maybe. Analysts almost universally declared it a win for Houston. "This is what title teams do," said Zach Lowe on the Lowe Post. "They recognize when it's time to cash in their chips." Green had 4 years to prove he was that guy, and he didn't. Phoenix, meanwhile, traded into a pretty nothing burger with Book, Beal, and Green. This team is going to average about 4.5 passes per game, while conflicting reports stating that they will and won't reroute Green indicate no one, including the Suns, know what to do with him. In many ways, it was a mercy trade, a reset, but the symbolism was stark. A player once billed as the next Harden, the next T-Mac, the Rockets' crown jewel had become a trade piece. Not for another young prospect, not for picks, for a bucket-getting veteran in Kevin Durant. Well, actually, I suppose you can say Jalen Green is kind of the next Tracy McGrady, seemingly how both are walking highlight reels that struggle to get it done when the lights shine the brightest. Tracy McGrady was literally the embodiment of pure scoring artistry, an electrifying blend of length, handle, and an instinct for creating offense that few in NBA history could match. Standing at 6'8", with guard-like agility, silky shot mechanics, and unstoppable slashing abilities, McGrady dominated the regular season in ways that mesmerized fans and analysts alike. He became a 2-time scoring champ, delivering 32 points per game in 2003 and 28 in 2004, and earned 7 All-Star selections plus multiple All-NBA honors, all backed by his jaw-dropping on-court canvas that could go from step-back 3 to a thunderous dunk in the blink of an eye. Kobe Bryant himself, a player who feared nobody, famously declared T-Mac the toughest offensive talent he ever defended, praising him as a player with no weaknesses that could instantly erase any defender's daylight with his arsenal alone. Even legendary highlight moments like the unforgettable 13 points in 35 seconds against the Spurs, like this dude was just playing 2K IRL at this point. He became part of NBA history off his scoring bag and athleticism at 6'8", cementing his place as a transcendent regular season talent whose prolific scoring left opposing fans mesmerized. I swear I'm not trying to glaze this man too much, but this is one of my favorite players and kind of everyone's favorite player to watch torch defenses, which is why it kills me that he's a part of this video, because despite how insane his offensive pedigree was, the playoffs, where pressure test champions, unveiled T-Mac's limitations. In 9 trips to the postseason, he averaged a respectable 22, 6, and 5, but his efficiency nosedived to 42% from the field and just under 29% from deep. But those numbers don't tell the whole story. McGrady's teams never won a playoff series throughout the prime of his career, and he only reached the conference finals in 2013, ironically as a role player who logged no points in limited minutes on a roster you probably forgot he was on. T-Mac's resume in the postseason is so poor that this dude's hole in his resume is really just chalked up to the playoffs as a whole while healthy. I mean, from the very beginning, this dude was bringing early exits. After ducking out in the first round of the 2000 season, Mac would request a trade to get on his own team and to get away from his cousin's shadow in Toronto, only for the Raptors to run to the Eastern Conference semis, giving Allen Iverson's Sixers a real run for the money on their finals run. T-Mac got his wish out of the franchise, breaking out and averaging 27 points per game, but gave up on his opportunity to contend for a championship or even win a playoff series with the Raptors in the meantime. Meanwhile, he was losing to the Bucks in 4 games in the first round, while T-Mac had his first of many failed carry jobs, shooting 20% from deep and a lackluster 41% from the field. T-Mac's stint with the Magic was hindered with bad luck. Not only did he make it clear he regrets his decision to leave the Raptors in the first place, but the man he left to play with in Grant Hill would play under 50 games in total in their entire tenure together. In 2002 with Orlando, he continued to pour in 31 points per game on 46% from the field and sniping 31% behind the arc, but the Magic were outplayed and eliminated by Charlotte in just 4 games. Then in 2005 in Houston, McGrady went off, putting up 31 points per game on 45% and a crisp 37% from downtown, highlighted by that electrifying poster dunk over Sean Bradley, but the Rockets ultimately fell in a 7-game war against the Dallas Mavericks. Though McGrady was riding high in moments, crucial late-game possessions and matchups against the Mavericks exposed weaknesses in his inability to bite down when it counted. Arguably the most crushing failure came in 2003, en route to the infamous 3-1 collapse against the Detroit Pistons. After starting the series with a knockout performance, dropping 43 points in Game 1, McGrady averaged a scorching 32 points on 45% shooting, including 34% from 3 throughout the first 4 games. Orlando shocked the NBA by absolutely choking a commanding 3-1 lead, seemingly on the verge of making a deep postseason run. As McGrady confidently said, it felt good to be in the second round, a statement which echoed through playoff hype machines. But then, the wheels fell off. The rookie Tayshaun Prince clocked in more minutes than he ever had and shocked the world with a clutch defensive masterclass. In games 5 through 7, McGrady was held to 25 points per game on an ice-cold 36% from the field and 23.5% from deep, unable to wrestle control from the Pistons' suffocating defense or overcome Orlando's sudden second-round immobility. I mean, I love T-Mac, but you gotta appreciate how insane you have to be defensively to make one of the greatest offensive talents of all time shoot like tour date numbers. The Magic let an opportunity slip away, and the narrative labeled McGrady a performer unable to deliver under postseason heat. By 2004, McGrady was forced to leave for Houston, where, unfortunately again, his pairing with Yao Ming would yet again be ruined by injuries to the both of them. By 2007 and 2008, McGrady's rust had deepened. Unfortunately, it was far too late for the WD-40. He still managed to average 25 in 2007's 7-game loss to Utah, but shot just 39% from the field, visibly strained by fatigue and physical toll, famously admitting, "I had no legs in clutch times." In the following season, still battling nagging injuries, and with Yao Ming sidelined, he averaged 27 points per game, but only shooting 42% and 20% from 3, collecting enough bricks to build a new subdivision. Team chemistry fragile and clutch sense compromised as Houston bowed out in 6. By then, fatigue and injuries had begun corresponding his free-flowing scoring instincts, and defenses instinctually keyed in on him, knowing that without consistent postseason adjustments, he'd eventually just crumble offensively. Why did it happen? A combination of elements proved disastrous. McGrady, for the most part, was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Due to injuries to Grant Hill and Yao weakening his roster, his teams were barely kept afloat, while McGrady was forced to pull every shot, and the few times that opportunity for playoff success arose, McGrady sadly had his moments shrinking under the brightest lights. Paul George bursted onto the NBA landscape as a prototype modern wing. Standing at 6'8", he blended smooth perimeter scoring, decent playmaking, and lockdown defensive abilities in a way that few peers could match. He earned the name Playoff P early on, a confident declaration that postseason greatness was not just expected but demanded. And yet, despite his talents and bravado, his playoff career has become a fractal of contradictions. Dazzling box scores that mask inefficiencies, dramatic explosions overshadowed by cold slumps, and a mental game that seems to splinter under pressure. Over 108 playoff games, Playoff P has averaged a solid 22, 7.5, and 4. Numbers that look impressive on paper, but dig deeper and you'll find a real troubling truth. In nearly 45% of those outings, George shot under 40% from the field, a roller coaster of a mark, only worse than Russell Westbrook among volume playoff players in the modern era. That frequency of inefficiency paints a portrait of a scorer who can erupt spectacularly, think 41-point gems or momentum-altering scoring bursts, but whose ceiling in high-stakes moments is shadowed by the occasional hush of 3 dreadful misses in a row or frozen fourth-quarter snaps that sink the team's hopes. Paul George's playoff resume is pretty ass, dude. As you guys know, this guy's my worst enemy on the face of the earth, but every time the calendar hits April, I pray that this guy can turn it around. Although back in the day, PG felt like the next guy up, giving us some unforgettable playoff moments against the Miami Heat. In recent years, this guy's just put up performances so shit that it stinks up the whole stadium. While I hate to admit it, Joel Embiid has all the tools to be one of the best players of his generation. He's a 7-foot force who can score from the post, hit mid-range jumpers, spam free throws, and protect the rim on defense. He's won an MVP, highly controversial to some as it was pretty much 50-50 between him and Joker, but as much as I can't stand this guy's face, his talent is pretty undeniable. He led the league in scoring twice and has been named to multiple All-NBA and All-Defensive teams. This dude put up 70, 18, and 5 on Wemby's head. He bullied Cat for 51. In the regular season, when he's not flopping like a fish out of water, Embiid is almost always dominant, putting up monster stats like 33 points and 10 rebounds per game in his 2022-2023 MVP season. But when the playoffs come around, things clearly just don't look like the same. Despite his expectations with the talented Philadelphia roster, Embiid has never made it past the second round of the playoffs, and year after year, his teams come up short in the most crucial moments of the postseason. In the playoffs across his career, Embiid averages about 24 points and 11 rebounds per game. Solid on paper, but not at the level expected of an MVP. His shooting percentage drops to around 45% as a big man, a very big dip from his regular season efficiency. He also tends to turn the ball over way more in the postseason, averaging just about 4 turnovers per game. Even worse, some of his lowest performances have come in the biggest games. Game 7s, elimination games, or closeout opportunities. These are the moments when superstars are supposed to step up, but for Embiid, they often turn into quiet nights, leading to frustrating losses, or even a few tears, thanks to Kawhi Leonard. The 2023 playoffs were a perfect example. The 76ers faced off against the Celtics in the second round and had a 3-2 series lead with Game 6 in Philadelphia. Embiid scored 26, not too shabby, but it was his superhuman ability to turn invisible in the fourth quarter that had everyone shocked. Then in Game 7, with the trip to the conference finals on the line, Embiid played one of his worst games of all time. Just 15 points on 5 for 18 shooting, while Jason Tatum erupted for 51. The Sixers were blown out, and Embiid walked off the court once again in disappointment. After the game, even James Harden had just 9 points, not surprisingly of course, and head coach Doc Rivers was fired shortly after. Embiid called it a disappointing season, but by then, fans had heard that plenty of times. This wasn't at all a one-time thing. In 2018, the Sixers were young and exciting, but lost to the Celtics in 5. In 2019, they lost to the Raptors in that historic Game 7 when Kawhi hit that iconic shot. Embiid had 21, but shot poorly and had 8 turnovers. Yeah, I'd probably cry too. In 2021, the Sixers were the number 1 seed in the East, but lost to the number 5 seed Atlanta Hawks in 7 games, including a terrible Game 7 where Ben Simmons took the fall, although Embiid struggled with shot selection and late game decision making. In 2022, Embiid played through injury again, and the Heat eliminated the Sixers in 6 games. To be fair, injuries have played a role for the most part. Embiid has dealt with knee problems, back soreness, facial fractures, and torn ligaments in his thumb during playoff runs. But at some point, people stop caring about your excuses. Other stars like Nikola Jokic, who led the Nuggets to a championship in 2023, have stayed healthy, stepped up in key moments, and proven they can lead when it matters. Embiid, on the other hand, still hasn't had one truly great playoff run to silence the critics. And it's not just the stats, it's how he looks out there. In close games, Embiid can seem slow, tired, or unsure of what to do. He settles for tough jumpers, gets stuck in double teams, or commits sloppy turnovers. He's a strong defensive player, but even that doesn't always show up in crunch time. His body language is god-awful too, especially when he can't get the calls he wants. For someone with his size, skill, and regular season dominance, it's hard to understand how the playoffs continue to go so brutal. At this point, it is clear that Embiid is a regular season star, but a postseason underachiever. He has all the talent in the world, but hasn't proven he can lead a team deep into the playoffs, stay healthy, and deliver when the lights are the brightest. And as the years go, and other stars break through, Embiid's missed chances are becoming harder and harder to ignore. For all the trust the process talk that literally started his career and built all this hype around him, the end results, well, just sum it up that everyone in Philly now has developed major trust issues. In the chaos of the NBA regular season, where fast breaks flow freely and defenses often take nights off, stars like James Harden, Jalen Green, T-Mac, and the new recent duo of PG and Embiid have dazzled with highlight reel play plays, crazy stat lines, and MVP level flashes. They've each carried the weight of a franchise on their shoulders, Harden with his stepbacks and isolation wizardry, Green with his raw explosiveness, and McGrady with his smooth, effortless scoring, and George with his two-way polished game. But as the calendar turns to April and the intensity ratchets up, a different game emerges. Some people thrive for these moments, and you can't help but wonder, if they had that playoff mentality, NBA history could be a lot different. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and as always, I'll see you boys in the next one. Peace out.